Have you ever felt that quiet ache at the end of a long day? The kind that no one sees. You've done everything right, checked every box, smiled at the right moments, nodded, agreed, responded with the practiced enthusiasm the world expects. And still, something feels missing, like laughter echoing through an empty room, or applause after a performance you didn't enjoy giving. There's a question we've all asked ourselves at some point, sometimes in silence, sometimes through tears on a pillow no one knows has seen them. Why am I not happy? Not in the shallow, momentary sense, like the buzz of buying something new or the thrill of a compliment, but in the soul, deep kind, the kind that doesn't waver when the lights go out, the kind that stays. The world is loud with answers. It tells us happiness is out there, just a little further, just a bit more. More money, more attention, more beauty, more success. We run, faster, harder, longer, but the strange thing is, the faster we run toward happiness, the more it seems to slip away. It's like chasing the horizon. It looks so close, until you get there and it's moved again. We weren't made to chase the horizon. We were meant to walk slowly and notice the sky. In ancient times, people didn't speak about happiness the way we do today. They didn't sell it. They didn't package it into self-help slogans or apps. They lived it, not as a destination, but as a quality of being, a harmony between the self and the world. The Greeks had a word, eudaimonia, not pleasure, not smiles, but flourishing. A life lived with meaning, with virtue, with depth. To be aligned with your values, to live with integrity. That was happiness. It wasn't about feeling good. It was about being good. But somewhere along the road, we forgot. We traded inner truth for outer approval. We learned to dress up our sadness, to filter our pain, to hide our longing behind curated moments and empty affirmations. And still, at night, the ache returns. The truth is, happiness doesn't always feel like joy. Sometimes it feels like peace, like the quiet after a storm, like forgiveness, like finally letting go of something you held on to for too long. You see, we often confuse happiness with intensity. We think we need fireworks to feel alive, but real happiness is often gentle, almost invisible, like a breeze you don't notice until it's gone, like the warmth of sunlight on your back, like someone remembering your name when you didn't expect them to. It's in the little things, the way your mother used to hum in the kitchen, the scent of an old book, the moment someone listens, not just to respond, but to hear you. We are not unhappy because we don't have enough. We are unhappy because we've stopped noticing what we already do. We've trained our eyes to seek more, higher, better, never now. And in doing so, we've blinded ourselves to the beauty already present. There's a reason the wisest people often live the simplest lives. They understand something we're only beginning to remember, that happiness doesn't come from getting what you want. It comes from wanting what you have. And yet, this truth is easy to forget in a world built on desire, a world that profits from our restlessness, that keeps whispering, not yet, not enough, just a bit more. But the soul doesn't want more. The soul wants meaning. It wants depth. It wants connection. So if you're still searching, still aching, still waking up with that quiet emptiness, know that you're not alone, and more importantly, know that you're not broken. You're just remembering that happiness isn't found in a finish line. It's found in presence, in awareness, in the way you look at the world, and more importantly, the way you look at yourself. The ancient masters knew, to be truly happy, you must first be still. You must see, you must feel, not just the highs, but the lows, not just the victories, but the vulnerabilities, because happiness isn't the absence of pain. It's the embrace of life as it is. And when you begin to understand this, when you stop chasing and start being, the secret begins to reveal itself, not in grand revelations or sudden ecstasy, but in the smallest, quietest moments, that's where the real lesson begins. And it is in those moments we'll now journey deeper into what the ancients knew and what we've forgotten about the soul of happiness, because the lesson, as you'll see next, has never been far away. It's been whispering to us all along. We left off at a simple but powerful truth. Happiness is not something we chase. It's something we remember, a quiet returning to the self, to presence, to the now. And yet, to truly understand what happiness is, we must ask what it is not. It is not a permanent high, not the constant hum of joy or the removal of sorrow. It is not the fantasy we've been sold, the one where all our problems vanish and life becomes effortless. Happiness, real happiness, is something far more sacred. And to uncover it, we turn to those who walked the earth before us, those who questioned, who suffered, who observed the soul as carefully as the stars. Confucius once wrote, "The man who moves a mountain begins by carrying away small stones." What if happiness is not a mountain, but the slow act of noticing each stone, each gesture of kindness, each moment of grace, and choosing to carry it with care? Confucius didn't speak of happiness in grand terms. He spoke of harmony, of the balance between one's role in the world and one's inner integrity. To him, happiness was not found in luxury, but in rightness. Right thoughts, right actions, right relationships. He taught that if you lived with sincerity, if your words matched your heart, peace would follow. And then, further west, the Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote late into the night, often by candlelight, whispering lessons to himself. Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself. He ruled an empire, yet found the source of joy not in his power, but in his ability to remain calm, grateful, humble. He understood that the world is chaotic, that loss is inevitable, that pain visits everyone. But even in that chaos, we have a choice to remain still inside, to not be shaken, and that is where happiness begins. Laozi, the mysterious poet of the Tao, carried this further. He saw happiness not as something to strive for, but as something that arises when we stop striving. He taught, when you realize there is nothing lacking, the whole world belongs to you. This is the paradox of the Tao. The more you let go, the more you gain. The more you surrender, the more at peace you become. Imagine living without grasping, without comparing, without competing. Imagine looking at your life and, even in its imperfection, feeling full. That is the secret Laozi offers us. That nature is never in a hurry, yet everything is accomplished. So why do we rush? Why do we believe happiness lies beyond this moment, this breath, this experience? Socrates, with his relentless questioning, brought the mirror even closer. He didn't offer answers. He dismantled illusions. He asked, "What is a good life?" And he led his students to see that it was not pleasure that made life good, but purpose, the courage to know yourself, the discipline to master yourself, and the wisdom to live in alignment with what is true. He was poor by society's standards, ridiculed, even sentenced to death. But Socrates died with a smile because he lived with clarity. To him, happiness was integrity. A clean conscience, a soul at peace with itself. What ties all these sages together is this: none of them taught that happiness could be bought. None believed it was found in external gain. They looked within. They asked better questions, and they taught that happiness arises when we return to what is simple, sincere, and still. We are not taught this today. Instead, we are conditioned to believe that happiness must be earned, that it comes after success, after achievement, after validation. But the more we delay our joy, the more distant it becomes. The ancients invite us to a different path, one where happiness is found in the small acts. Sweeping the floor with care, listening with full attention, speaking with honesty, letting go of what we cannot control. Happiness in their eyes was not an emotion, but a way of living, a way of being. It wasn't a reward for what you had. It was a reflection of who you were becoming, and maybe that's what we're truly searching for. Not the fleeting thrill of pleasure, but the grounded contentment of peace. Not the noise of more, but the quiet of enough. Not the image of a perfect life, but the feeling of a meaningful one. These are the lessons we've forgotten, not because they stopped being true, but because we stopped listening. Now, as we reflect on these ancient voices, we begin to hear something familiar, not foreign or distant, but deeply personal. Because at the heart of it, happiness is not a mystery to solve. It is a truth to remember. And remembering requires one thing above all: presence, to stop, to look around, and to see that the path to happiness has always been under our feet. In the next part of our journey, we'll reflect on how these timeless truths live in our modern world, how they meet our distractions, our loneliness, our search for meaning, and how we can finally begin to live them. We carry ancient wisdom in our veins, yet live in a time that distracts us from it at every turn. The lessons of Confucius, Marcus Aurelius, Laozi, and Socrates still whisper in the background, but the volume of modern life has grown deafening. Notifications, obligations, the constant pull of more, these things make it hard to hear the quiet truths that once guided the soul. And so we forget, not out of rebellion, but exhaustion. We're exhausted from the pressure to be happy all the time, to wear joy like a badge, even when we feel broken inside. We've turned happiness into performance, something to be displayed, proved, and shared, measured in likes, validated by strangers. But genuine happiness doesn't clamor for attention. It doesn't ask to be seen, it simply is. It arises in moments that are often too small for the camera to catch. When you exhale and realize you're safe, when you pause and feel the sun on your face, when you're understood without needing to explain. In our world, we are taught to chase success, chase love, chase meaning, but chasing creates distance. The more you chase something, the more you reinforce that it is not here, that you are separate from it. Happiness cannot be hunted. It has to be invited, and it enters the spaces where we become still enough to welcome it. It's not that the world today is unfit for happiness. It's that we've created a rhythm that leaves little room for it. Our calendars are full, but our hearts are empty. Our minds race, but our souls are tired. We collect things, achievements, praise, but the inner quiet we long for stays out of reach. Why? Because happiness is not made of achievement. It's made of alignment. When what you do, what you say, and what you believe are in harmony, happiness follows like a shadow. The modern world tells us we need a reason to be happy, a promotion, a partner, a perfect body, but the ancient world told us the opposite. Happiness doesn't need a reason. It is the natural state of a soul that remembers itself, of a life lived in accordance with truth. When you are present, when you are kind, when you are sincere, joy begins to emerge, not because of what's happening, but because of how you are meeting what's happening. Think of a tree. It doesn't need applause to keep growing. It doesn't compare itself to the one next to it. It simply reaches toward the light, quietly and fully. The human soul is no different. It grows best when it stops comparing and starts becoming, and in becoming, there is happiness. But we live in a culture of comparison. Every scroll shows us a version of life that seems shinier, better, more fulfilled. And even when we know it's curated, we still feel the sting of less than. But happiness cannot survive in the soil of comparison. It needs roots in gratitude, in enoughness, in the radical acceptance of where you are and who you are right now. That is the soil where peace grows. So what can we do, really, in a world so fast, so loud, so driven by hunger for more? We can slow down. We can look within. We can begin to ask different questions. Not what do I lack, but what am I overlooking? Not what should I become, but what have I forgotten I already am? Happiness may not always look like smiling. Sometimes it looks like sitting with yourself and feeling every emotion without running away. Sometimes it looks like saying no. Sometimes it looks like letting go of a version of yourself that was never truly you. And sometimes it's just the gentle realization that right now, in this very breath, nothing is missing. This is what the ancients were pointing to, that the treasure we seek is buried not in the future, but in this moment. And it is unearthed through presence, integrity, simplicity, through living honestly with ourselves and with others, through noticing the sacred in the ordinary, the hand on your shoulder, the silence shared between friends, the act of breathing fully deeply without needing anything else. The modern world won't stop spinning, but you can. You can step out of its rhythm and into your own. You can remember what the world tries to make you forget, that happiness is not a luxury for the lucky. It is a birthright. It is the quiet knowing that your life, as it is worthy of being felt deeply. The path is not to add more to our lives, but to subtract what was never ours to carry. The expectations, the judgments, the masks, and underneath it all we begin to feel it. Not a surge of ecstasy, but a warm, steady hum. That is happiness, not the fireworks, but the flame. As we approach the closing of this journey, there's one more truth that waits for us. One final thread that weaves all of this together. A closing thought that holds the weight of everything we've explored and invites us to live differently. Not tomorrow, but now. So here we are, at the edge of everything we've remembered. The ancient voices still echo quiet but steady, reminding us that happiness is not a treasure buried at the end of some winding path, but the soil beneath our feet. And if we've listened closely, if we've allowed ourselves to slow down long enough to hear what lives underneath the noise, we begin to understand happiness isn't something we need to find. It's something we need to stop forgetting. There's a strange kind of grief that comes with chasing happiness your whole life, only to realize you've been running in circles. You begin to see that the joy you longed for was never in the things you were taught to pursue. It was never hiding in the crowd, the applause, the destination. It was always where you are, but buried under layers of expectation, fear, and noise. And when you begin to peel those layers back, gently, patiently, you uncover something so simple it almost hurts, the permission to be at peace with yourself. It's not that happiness is fragile. In truth, it's resilient. But it does require truthfulness. You cannot lie to yourself and expect to feel whole. You cannot betray your values and expect your spirit to sing. Happiness does not ask that your life be perfect. It asks that your heart be honest, that you stop pretending, that you stop performing for a world that never truly knew you. The secret is not in more. It's not in becoming someone else. It's in coming home to who you already are when no one's watching. Happiness is when you stop reaching to become something impressive and instead begin becoming something real. It's in doing small things with deep care, in treating strangers with unexpected kindness, in forgiving yourself for all the years you lived numb, afraid, distracted. It's in the courage to be ordinary, yet deeply present. There's a kind of power in that ordinariness, a kind of rebellion even. Because in a world that measures your worth by how visible, how desirable, how extraordinary you are, to simply live slowly, truthfully, contentedly, that's radical. It's radical to say, this moment is enough. This breath is enough. I am enough. Not when I become something else. Not when I achieve what they expect. But now, in the middle of my flaws, my doubts, my still becoming, we've confused happiness with ecstasy, with perfection, with some final point of arrival. But life isn't meant to be a climb to a peak you never reach. It's meant to be walked, felt, savored. You are not a project to be constantly improved. You are a presence to be honored. So let go. Let go of the chase, the story, the false idea that peace is reserved for those who have it all together. Let go of the weight of always needing to do more, be more, prove more. There is nothing more you need to earn in order to feel what is already yours. True happiness is quiet, not because it is weak, but because it is complete. It does not scream for attention. It doesn't need to. It hums in the background of a life lived in alignment with your values, with your truth, with your soul. And the more you align, the less you search, the less you need, the more you remember. There's a quote by the poet Hafiz: I wish I could show you, when you are lonely or in darkness, the astonishing light of your own being. That's what happiness really is. Not an external reward, but an inner radiance, one that shines brightest when you stop trying to become and instead allow yourself to be. So if you're still searching, let this be your reminder. Happiness is not later. It is not after. It is not elsewhere. It is now, in this breath, in this silence, in this very moment of awareness. Live as if it's already within you, because it is. Be kind without an agenda. Breathe with intention. Love without needing to be loved back. Give without waiting for return. And watch, slowly, as joy begins to bloom in the quiet corners of your life. Not because everything has changed, but because you have. And that is the final, beautiful paradox of all of this. When you stop trying so hard to be happy, you begin to feel it, not as a destination, but as a presence, not as a goal, but as a way of being. You are already enough. The secret is remembering that truth long enough for it to feel real, long enough for it to feel like home.